Hello, welcome back to the videos. This is our fifth and final video in that little series I'm calling chord groupings, where we're trying to find all the chords we need in little convenient clusters on the fingerboard. And we've covered all the naturally occurring chords in the key of G, which we use for our example key. And we used each one of the shapes to locate all the other chords that we're using all the time nearby that shape in what we're calling a cluster, or what I refer to as a grouping. And we also looked at some oddball chords, chords that don't naturally occur in the key you're playing in, but they're also nearby. And I was going to add in the previous video, but I didn't have time to. One other oddball chord is a chord that doesn't occur in the key you're playing in, but it's nearby. Let's look at the key of G. And we're going to refer to this, again, if you don't like this theory stuff, you can just look at the positions on the fingerboard and memorize what this looks like. I'm going to call this the flat 3 chord, which would be B flat. So if we talk about G, we'll go over them again quickly. We've got G is our 1, A minor is the naturally occurring 2 chord, A major would be a substitution, B minor is almost built into the 1, and that's a naturally occurring 3, or we can substitute a major 3. 4 would be a bar chord at the 5th fret in this case, since we're talking about G. 5 would be back here. 6 is built into the 1, that's a relative minor, that's E minor. And then 7, we know when we're talking about bluegrass and songs like that, is a diminished. We change that to an F. And again, those substitutions, these major chords can be considered modal changes. And so we've got all the naturally occurring ones and the ones that are outside the box. There's also a chord change that you'll hear in some bluegrass songs, and it comes from actually rock and roll and blues, and it would be the flat 3. So if the third chord, G, A, B, represents B minor or B major, if you flatted that chord, you might come up with B flat major. So I'm just going to refer to this as a flat 3. And again, this is theoretically, I don't want to get into too many different things. You could call that the 7 or the 4, but it just gets real convoluted. Let's just consider this another modal change, a chord that doesn't naturally occur in the key you're playing in, but it is located nearby. So wherever your index finger is in an F-shaped grouping, that would be the location of that chord. Now I'm sitting here trying to think of song examples in bluegrass where you might hear that, and 2 songs pop to mind right away. One is a Boone Creek song from back in the late 70s called One Way Track. Let's see if we can scout out the chord progression for One Way Track. And I'm going to try to stay in the camera shot here. Get my camera to cooperate. There we go. Alright, so in the key of G, here's One Way Track. My heart's breaking, loneliness taking me on a one-way trip on down the track. My soul is burning, wheels are turning. Hey, Mr. Engineer, won't you bring my baby back? That's pretty much the whole song as far as the choruses go. The verses are a little more naturally occurring as far as like the chords, and more like a 1-4-5 chord progression in the verses. But in the chorus of One Way Track from Boone Creek, you'll have that flat 3 in there. Another song that leaps to mind would be, which is not a bluegrass song, the song Rider, which was covered by the Seldom Seen back in the 70s and early 80s. I know you rider gonna miss me when I'm gone. I know you rider gonna miss me when I'm gone. Gonna miss your baby rolling in your arms. And again, that's the chorus. Verses, I laid down last night, Lord, could not take my rest. I laid down last night, Lord, could not take my rest. My mind was wandering like a wild geese in the west. Back to the verse. So if you look at the grouping the way we've described the F-shaped grouping, you'll see a 7 in both songs. I'm sorry, in this song. In Boone Creek, you see the B flat chord appear, and also you'll see B flat appear in the chorus of Rider. And I'm sure there's other songs, if you start thinking about tunes with this sound of a chord progression, you'll come up with that. So let's add that to our groupings. So we just got, we're going to call that the flat 3. So we know wherever the index finger is in this grouping is the location of your flat 3. If you go up to the D shape grouping, and let me see again if I can stay in the camera. The camera doesn't want to cooperate. Oops, wrong way. There we go. So there's our D shape grouping. We know there's the 1, right? We know the 2 is A minor, and then here's the 3, and those could be majors also. And then we have the 4, we have the 5, and we have the 6, which is the relative minor. All right, and the 7 is always a whole step below. Now, where is that flatted 3 chord, what we call the flat 3 chord in the progression? Well, you will move the normal 3 chord back, which in this case could be B major, back 1 fret. So it will be on the same fret as your middle finger, which is now holding the 2nd string, but these lead fingers will actually be on that fret location. I know this is a little hard to fathom from the video, but wherever this finger is located, that will be the location fret-wise for these 2 notes. So let me try to do rider here. I know you rider gonna miss me when I'm gone. I know you rider gonna miss me when I'm gone. Gonna miss your baby from rolling in your arms. Alright, or the chorus to the Boone Creek song, One Way Track. My heart's breaking, but it's taking me on a one-way trip on down the track. My soul is burning, wheels are turning. Hey, Mr. Engineer, won't you bring my baby back? So both songs have the inclusion of that flat 3 chord. So remember, when you're playing in this grouping, the middle finger on the 2nd string tells you the fret location for these 2 fingers in the F shape, and that will give you that flat 3 chord that you'll hear in some kind of songs. Now let's go up to the bar chord, and my camera won't dip down any farther than that, so I'll have to give it a little help. I'll have to give it a little help this way also. Sorry about that. This panning function on this camera can't do but so much. Now, so there is the location of our 1 chord. We're using this as our grouping. And we know the 2 is A minor, and we discovered it was this. B minor was built into the 1 always here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 was this note that springs into the D shape. 5 was on top of the 1, the F shape. And then 6 was adding the 1st string 2 frets higher. 7 is always a whole step below the 1. Now all we need to do is include the flat 3, the B flat major chord. Alright, we know if this is the major 3, all we have to do is move it back 1 fret, right? So here is the major. I had 1 fret wrong, sorry about that. I'm trying to look at the camera. I should be looking at my fingers. I'm trying to make sure I stay in the camera shot. So here's our B minor. If we do a B major version of that, there's 1, there's 2. What if we made a major 3? We know that the flat 3 will always be 1 fret behind that. So here's what you got to remember about a bar chord group. If you hear that flat 3 chord sound in a song, in the progression, that the 1st and 4th string notes that you're holding in the bar will become the lead fingers for a D shape formation. So there's the location of our B flat chord. So let me do One Way Track. My heart's breaking, loneliness taking 4. Me on a one-way trip 1. On down the track. My soul is burning. Flat 3. Wheels turning 4. Hey, Mr. Engineer, won't you bring my baby back? And back to the 1. Sorry about my crappy singing. It's kind of early in the morning here. So that will give you that oddball flat 3 chord. Since you have all 3 shapes mastered, everything repeats up the neck. So you've got pretty much everything you'll need from standard chords. Now, obviously, we only covered, you know, the 7 naturally occurring, well, the 6 naturally occurring chords, and then we had 3 chords that were like modal changes, chords from other keys. And then we added another one, so that's 4. So 6 and 4 is 10. That's 10 possible chords you'll need. And there will be songs that you encounter, especially songs from jazz or rock and roll or pop music, even some country songs that don't come from bluegrass, old time, from folk music kind of genres, you know. So you'll encounter songs that have strange changes that go even beyond what we've talked about. They're even stranger than these modal substitutions. They don't really connect very well to the key you're in. Sometimes they make no sense, even if you understand theory. The chord at first makes no sense. But again, if you think about the chord shapes, each one, the F, the D, and the bar being as like a template, you try to locate all the chords you need. Even if chords appear that make no sense at all, and you can't even theoretically relate them together, just go by the sound of the chord, and remember they will still be near, inside or near that grouping. So instead of spending more time on the video adding more strange changes, if you hear them, you'll know them. But let's just say for the most jam session stuff, most of the songs you hear bluegrass and old-time bands play, what we covered in these videos will allow you to find, you know, 95% of the chords you need. And then if they're doing a song from another genre of music and there's a weird chord that appears, it can still be found in these groups. You just have to think about the sound of the chord. You may have to ask questions, ask somebody what the name of that chord is, and then locate it in the group. So let's wrap up this video with taking this idea and maybe moving it around to different keys. Since we've added, you know, so many different chords in there, I'm just going to pick a song and we'll try to move it around to different keys and see if we can use what we're talking about here. I'm going to use the song Little Maggie for this example. And let's move Little Maggie, which is generally in the key of G, which will be here. Let's move it to the key of A. And let's see if I can adjust the camera a little bit better. Nope. It'll only go up so far. Sorry about that. I wish I had a better zoom function on this thing, but better pan control. So this is normally G. We know Little Maggie has that 1-7 progression. So if we did Little Maggie in A, oh yonder stands Little Maggie, that would be our 7, because remember the 7's always below the 1. Standing with 5 chord would be here, dram glass in her hand, she's drinking away her trouble, 7, and chord in 5, another man. Back to 1. Let's try Rider in the key of A, since we just covered that song. I know you rider gonna miss me when I'm gone. So if you think about it, this is looking exactly like it did in the key of G. Same shapes, same number of beats. We're just transposing to the key of A and using groupings to tell us where the chords are. I know you rider gonna miss me when I'm gone. Now we've got the flat 3. Remember, it's going to be here. Da, 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 da. Okay, let's move Rider to the key of, I don't know, C sharp. Let's go crazy. Even though you probably never played the song in C sharp, let's do it anyway. Alright, so Rider in C sharp. And remember, we're looking at the shapes and we're building a grouping around this. And I can't sing it this high. I know, I'll sing the low octave. I know you rider gonna miss me when I'm gone. Or there's 7, there's 1. I know you rider gonna miss me. Here's your 4. When I'm gone. Now where's our flat 3 gonna be? Miss my baby from rolling in your arms. I laid down last night, Lord, could not take my rest. I laid down last night, Lord, could not take my rest. Okay, well, here comes the flatted 3. My mind was for wandering like a 3, 4, back to 1. Okay, let's do Little Maggie in G, but not this G. Let's do it in this G. Over yonder stands little Maggie, standing with a dram glass in her hand. She's drinking away her trouble and courting another man. Okay, now we could keep doing this, for hours and hours, just taking songs that you know and transposing them to different keys, which is something I advise you to do if you really want to get how valuable these chord groupings are. You can essentially just transpose a song at will just by thinking about, what's the chord progression. Once you determine the chord progression, pick a grouping, which one of the shapes you're going to designate as your 1 chord, and then you'll know how to associate all the other chords around it, even the oddball substitutions like majors where there should be minors. And now you've got a flat chord in there, a B flat chord, we'll call the flatted 3rd for G, a chord that's even stranger, oddball. And like I said before, even if there's some chords that don't even fit into what we're talking about here, you can still find them within a group. You just have to hunt and think about how they sound, ask some questions. Now in terms of playing your backup, before we wrap up the video, you can see I'm just, I'm vamping. I could roll over chords. But if you're looking for convenient ways to play backup over songs, especially songs that are really quick, and you get tired of trying to play your chords like using the F-shaped chord and dragging it all up and down the neck, instead of doing that on a fast-paced song, it's really good to, try to associate them in groups. Now, there's also going to be what I call cross-pollination of groups, which means you can move between groups. You can stay in a group for a little while and then start nudging your way out. So let's use Little Maggie for the example to wrap up the video. And I'm going to cross-pollinate groups. I'm going to start Little Maggie here in this grouping, and then I'm going to start working up the neck. And you're going to see that I'm going to use a chord from a different group to get me to a new location. Oh, yonder stands Little Maggie, standing with a grand glass in her hand. She's drinking away her trouble and courting another man. So what happened there is I cross-pollinated, which is more of my off-the-cuff lingo. Sorry about that. It's just a way of saying, hey, I'm moving between the groups, but I'm kind of keeping groups in my mind. I know this is a 1, and I know this is a 1. They're both G's. And I know that Little Maggie goes G to F or 1 to 7. So instead of always going here, I can do this. And that way I can move between these positions. So if I wanted to play backup rolls or licks over Little Maggie, then I can actually cordon off a section of the fingerboard, and in my mind I'm going between the 2 groups. I know that when I'm here I can play my 1 here, and here's my 7, so I don't always have to go lower, and then I don't always have to go here for C. I could go from here to G, from here to G, and then use this for C, my 4 chord. If there's a song that went 1, 4, 7, then this could be 7, back to 1. So eventually you'll stop seeing chords as just groups, because remember, this is just one way of looking at the fingerboard. Instead of using one shape and dragging it around the neck to find all the chords you need, you can think about switching to different shapes and staying within a group. But then you can start moving in and out of groups at will, mixing different shapes from different groups. And eventually you'll have such a grasp of the fingerboard with these 10 or so chords that we've talked about, you'll be able to just seamlessly go up and down the neck and find any chords you need in any octave anywhere on the neck, which is the real goal of doing this. So I appreciate you watching the videos, and I hope it helps your playing, helps you understand the fingerboard chords wise. and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks.